Here's a video that I'm making for my Art1 class. We're about to start talking about how to add value to our everyday shapes and forms. How do we make them look three-dimensional? So here's a video where I've set up a still life, which means kind of everyday objects just being arranged for study. I chose these particular objects because of their shape and also because they're painted or just naturally already white. That way you can see how the light is hitting the object and how it's creating light and dark areas. If they were objects that had color, it would be a little bit harder to distinguish how the light hits it. So I put a blanket down, and like I said, there's some objects here that are already white in color so you can see where the light hits it. So over here I have a lamp light set up from the left side, so the light is coming from the left. For example, here is a cone shape that I have. Here you can see the light is at its strongest, and then the light wraps around the object, and then it casts a shadow onto the surface around it. I also have a couple ping pong balls so that you could see, if we looked at a sphere, what that would look like. So here the light is shining from the left side. As you can see, the light fades a little bit as it wraps around the object, especially since it, has these rounded edges. And then a cast shadow is cast onto the table surface around it. Light can reflect off of other surfaces around it, which is what's happening to the table surface, and it bounces off of the table surface back onto the object. So this is where you see what's called reflective light. So it's just reflecting back onto the surface. So you'll notice it starts to get darker, but then suddenly it gets lighter right there at that edge. That's the object and the cast shadow where they kind of meet. You can see that here on that ping pong ball. And then here's a cube that I have. We're going to be talking about perspective coming up a little bit later, how to match up the angles and things like that, the illusion of 3D. But I wanted you to see that having a cube shape, as the light is coming from the left side, each side is going to have a different value of light. So this side is angled towards the light, so it's the lightest. There's just a little bit more light hitting the top of the cube. But we get a really sharp edge right here because there's a big change in the surface plane. So this is where you see this edge line right here. It suddenly goes darker, but it is getting some light. And then over here on the right side, we're seeing the cast shadow. So there's not as much light coming through. You can see a little bit right here, but that is only because it's made of paper. And so the inside is actually having light coming through. And you can see like a shadow there. So that actually wouldn't be there if it was solid. It would be a lot darker. And then I put an upside down cup so you could see the illusion, or not the illusion, but how light hits an object with a cylinder shape. So it's strongest at the left side, and then it curves around, and then there's a reflective light and cast shadow. So just wanted to show you this, and then we'll talk more about, there's some art vocabulary that I kind of used as I was describing the forms and how light hits it. Okay.